Hey guys, it's Madison and welcome to this video, which is going to be a 40-hour, 7-day language challenge. This is a community challenge that I'm doing alongside my co-host, Journey Languages, as well as many of you as well. And the original goal of the challenge is to study 40 hours of your target languages, either active study or passive exposure, over the course of just 7 days or a week. Although you can be flexible and have your own individual goal as well, but I am shooting for the original 40 hours over the course of a week. Now, the theme of my 40-hour, 7-day language challenge is to be kind to myself and not set high expectations, which might seem counterintuitive to trying to shoot for 40 hours in 7 days. I realize that, but I've noticed that I've been kind of really harsh or disappointed constantly in myself over the past couple kind of weekly language focused vlogs that I've done in the recent past, where I kind of set up this really high expectation and have this really big vision of all the things that I possibly could accomplish over the course of a week. And then when I don't meet those super high unrealistic expectations, I feel disappointed, even though I have perfectly valid, rational, reasonable reasons that I'm not meeting those unrealistic expectations. So I'm gonna try and be really kind to myself and not set super unrealistic expectations despite the high numbers goal of the week, especially since this is a work week. And so on days that I work, like today, I'm going to be very low energy, not feel like pushing really hard to actively study a bunch of stuff. And so throughout the course of this challenge, I'm gonna really try to focus on kind of gauging my mental capacity for the day and not trying to push myself beyond that capacity. But if I'm feeling really exhausted like I am today because it's Monday and a work day, I'm gonna really just take it light and do very light, not mentally taxing activities throughout the course of the day. Still try to get a decent number of hours, but not by pushing myself to do really challenging things on those days. Whereas the days that I have off during the week, I can kind of try and do a bit more, again, depending on how I feel. And so even though I would love to have a decent amount of active studying done by the end of the week, if I'm feeling exhausted the entire week and I end up doing mostly passive stuff instead, that's still okay. It's still, 40 hours, hopefully, of accomplished language exposure at the very least. And so I'm still gonna be happy and not disappointed in theory that I got that much done. So that is the gist of what we're doing this week. And before I go ahead and jump into the actual languagey stuff for the week, one quick note about my schedule. So I am very lucky because my schedule is very flexible. I have to teach Monday through Thursday from 9 until 3 o'clock. But I am very blessed to have a 3-day weekend, Friday through Sunday. And also this week happens to be a holiday week. And so Wednesday I will also have off. So for this challenge in particular, I'll have 3 work days and 4 off work days, which is very, very nice. In order to achieve 40 hours over the course of a week, that means you have to do approximately 5 hours and just over 40 minutes, I believe, every single day on average. However, the likelihood of me achieving 5 hours and 42 minutes of study or exposure on a workday is not very high, or at least it'd be very much a struggle. And like I said, the goal of this challenge is not to give myself a struggle. So I'm gonna give myself a lot of grace on those work days and have not super high time expectations for those days. Obviously, I'd like to get as much exposure as possible on those days, so I'm not desperately trying to catch up over the course of the weekend, but definitely I'm planning on doing a lot more study or exposure on my off days compared to my work days. But that is enough of this long winding intro. Let's go ahead and jump into day 1, Monday of this 40-hour, 7-day language challenge.
日陰は涼しかったです。海も綺麗だし、自然がたくさんあるし、夫と子供たちは下に降りていきました。
이렇게 검찰이 수사에 속도를 내는 가운데
서울대 법대 출신 선 후배 법조인들입니다.
당시 라인의 보안을 문제 삼으며
라인 사용 실태조사를 벌였습니다.
조코비치는 팬들에게 사인을 해주다가 관중석에서 떨어진 보온병에 머리를 맞고 말았는데요. 세계 32위 타빌로에게 0대2로 완패했는데요.
No rhythm, no tempo, no balance whatsoever on.
바스데이 케이크 프라페치노의販売.
Hello, it is now Wednesday and time for a quick update on how things are going this week so far. So both Monday and Tuesday I did not meet the time goal, which honestly was to be expected. I got just over 3 hours on Monday and then 2.5 hours on Tuesday, which I'm totally okay with because again, they were busy work days. I had very little energy and so I did what I could. I enjoyed the activities that I did do on those days and so I think that is a success right there. Hopefully today, Wednesday, I can do a bit more because today is my day off because of a national holiday, Buddha's birthday. And so I should have some extra time to work on stuff. I will say it's already mid-afternoon and I've done nothing so far. I spent basically the entire morning catching up on watching the Karen retrial. I'm not sure if any of my viewers also are following that. Let me know in the comments down below if you are, but I don't think I mentioned it before on this channel, but I do enjoy watching a lot of legal live streams kind of in my free time when I'm not doing language learning. And so I spent the morning catching up on coverage on that. And so I have not touched languages yet today. I think that was a much needed morning off, especially because this entire week I haven't gotten nearly enough sleep. This time it's not my fault. Usually I'm a terrible night owl and don't go to bed at a decent hour, but this week I have been going to bed at a decent hour, but I keep waking up way too early because my room is extremely hot because my apartment has not turned on the AC yet. And so basically I'm going to be living in a sauna until June. And so I've been struggling with sleeping decently because of that. And so I haven't had a lot of energy the past few days. And today, even though I had the morning to sleep in, I still didn't sleep well because of the heat. And so the morning was very low energy and I just felt like watching YouTube instead of doing any kind of languagey stuff instead. But never fear, it is now mid-afternoon. I have a bit more energy now and I'm ready to get started on this hopefully decent day of language studying. But before I get too far into what my plans are for today, I wanted to back up a little bit and mention what I forgot to mention on Monday, and that is that I made a bingo card for this challenge. I'll put it on the screen now so you guys can see it, but basically my goal personally is to achieve a blackout on this card, so to complete all of the different activities on the board, but if not a blackout, I do want to achieve several bingos hopefully throughout the course of the week. And so hopefully the extra motivation of trying to accomplish all of the different tasks on this bingo card will help push me to study a more kind of wide variety of things throughout this week instead of doing the same things over and over again. So I'm gonna go ahead and check off all the things I've done so far during this challenge. First of all, I watched a ton of comprehensible Japanese videos on YouTube, so I can check off that box there. Also yesterday I watched and read several different news things, so I can check that box off as well. And then outside of that, I also did some reading stuff with webtoons. However, I think I'm actually not gonna mark those down yet, even though I could mark off a few more boxes because of that, because I'm hoping to read a bit of like novel stuff or other more kind of advanced content and kind of challenge myself to do higher level reading stuff beyond just webtoons, because webtoons aren't very mentally intensive for me. I think they're still a really good reading practice, but they're not really a challenge. And I'm hoping that either later today or on the weekend, I can actually read a bit more of that content that pushes me more out of my comfort zone. So I'm gonna try and save those for later. If I don't ever get around to actually reading those novels or more advanced content, I might go back and check them in later because I did technically read, but that is my actual more specific goal for those boxes later in the week, so I'm gonna leave them blank for now. But yeah, aside from the reading stuff I have technically done, those two boxes are the only ones that I can check off yet. Hopefully today I can check off a few more. But yeah, going back to my actual plans for today, I have two kind of ideas for what I can work on for the course of the day. The first one is I want to kind of catch up on the last few episodes of Destiny, I think it's called. It's a Japanese drama that I started several weeks back. I mentioned it in a vlog a few weeks back as well if you watched that, but I've watched the first 2 episodes and so far it's been really, really interesting. The main character is a prosecutor and the first 2 episodes kind of focused on her past with her group of friends that she made in college, I believe, and also some kind of mysterious things that happened back in the past. And I think going into the future, she's going to be trying to uncover those kind of mysteries and how it connects to her friends in that friend group. So after those first 2 episodes, I actually purposely waited until now to watch any more because I wanted to have a little bit of a stockpile of episodes to watch. I tend to prefer binge watching to waiting one by one for episodes to come out because I can't stand waiting a whole week to figure out what happens next after just one little 45-minute episode. And so at this point there are 4 more episodes, I believe, so up to episode 6. And so I'm happy to be able to watch a few in a row. Of course, it's not totally out. I'll have to wait a few more weeks to actually, get to the end of the show, I believe, but at least I can watch several in a row today. So that is goal number 1. And then aside from that, I'm not sure what else I'll do. I might just see what I feel like doing in the evening, but I'm probably going to read a bit more of that webtoon that I started the last 2 days. It's called Kobekotek, which is confession attack. Kobek means like a love confession or like professing your love to someone. We don't really have an exact word for that necessarily in English, but yeah, roughly love confession attack. And yeah, I had saved this webtoon under my kind of like webtoons I'm interested in list several months ago, I think, when it was first coming out. I was waiting again for the episodes to kind of stockpile up before I started it. And so it had actually been several months since I had read kind of the blurb describing the kind of main premise of the story. So I was really surprised when like right from the get-go, there was like this Quebec related action, this like love confession stuff happening like right from, I think, episode 1. So I was not prepared for that. Usually webtoons and dramas kind of take your time building up to these kinds of things. So I was like, whoa, we're right in the action already. So I was a little bit kind of whiplashy from that, but it has been pretty interesting so far. I'm curious to see kind of how it develops. I tend to like kind of, cute little high school stories like this. And so I'm definitely enjoying it so far. Hopefully that continues as I continue to read it. But yeah, typically with webtoons, I'm able to read for quite a long time without feeling fatigued. So I'm hoping that today will be no different and I can get a few hours under my belt of reading webtoons. And so yeah, since I am, like I said, behind time-wise as far as the 40-hour 7-day language challenge is concerned, I'm hoping that these kind of 2 time-intensive activities of catching up on that show, as well as reading this webtoon and reading hopefully a lot of this webtoon, will kind of help me catch up and get a decent chunk of time spent on languages today.
待てって。
ちょっといい？
はい。
All right, it is now Saturday, the official weekend, and let me just say, first of all, that coming into this weekend, I have a lot to work on language-wise. Before I get into the kind of stressful situation I'm facing for the weekend, I wanted to quickly mention kind of what I've done over the past few days because I haven't filmed over the past few days, but starting with what I did film on Wednesday, starting with Destiny, that Japanese show that I watched on Wednesday. I had mentioned that the first 2 episodes were pretty intriguing. Like, I was really curious to find out how the story developed. That still holds true after watching the next 4 episodes on Wednesday. I am still very curious. I'm hooked enough to want to discover how the whole convoluted plot resolves. However, I wasn't a huge fan of how some things developed. I'm not really a fan of having like secrets in close relationships or just either hiding huge things or doing things behind someone's back. I'm not a fan of that, and that was kind of happening the entire time. Also, legally, it's not super accurate. Like, the conflict of interest that people are just totally ignoring is just totally unrealistic, but I kind of figured that it wouldn't be the most realistic legal show because legal shows rarely are actually that realistic. But yeah, like I said, I am still, intrigued enough to want to keep watching just because I'm curious how they're going to resolve everything, but I am a little more disappointed than I was after just the first 2 episodes because of all the kind of messy stuff happening during the show. So that's that little review there. Quality-wise, I still think it's one of the better shows that I've ever watched in Japanese. Just plot-wise, kind of so-so as of episode, 6? Because of some of that mess. But yeah, the other thing I did on Wednesday was to basically catch up on all the episodes of Kobekotek that are currently available. I had mentioned that things kind of developed very quickly for that webtoon, and typically I prefer kind of a slow burn, kind of tension atmosphere for romantic stuff, and thankfully I ended up still getting that tension, kind of slow burn anxiousness that I do enjoy for that kind of romantic development. Even though things started off very quickly, things developed in a way that I did actually enjoy. So that is a cute little high school romance webtoon so far. So I am enjoying that. I wish there were more episodes that I could continue to read, but I am all caught up, unfortunately. So on Thursday, I actually started reading a new webtoon. Thursday was a bit rough time-wise, I will say. Wednesday, I had done a decent amount because of all the reading I did and also all of the 4 episodes that I watched for that drama. However, I didn't end up spending as much time as I thought I would. It was only around 6 hours, which was good, but not good enough to actually help me catch up to where I needed to be. It was more of just what an average day should look like, so it wasn't that helpful for catching up. And then Thursday, I was just exhausted after work and accidentally fell asleep for multiple hours after work, and so didn't really have a ton of time or energy or just motivation to do a lot. And so I just started a new webtoon that night called 최고의 불사라. 최고의 불소라. That was definitely a good choice. I'm really enjoying that webtoon so far. I read the first 9 episodes that night, so only an hour and a half on Thursday. So yeah, I came into Friday really struggling time-wise basically. And so yesterday on Friday when I looked at my time, I realized I would have to study 8 hours and 50 minutes per day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to make 40 hours. So that's a bit of overwhelming information to come into Friday with, because that's a lot to do every single day. But yesterday, thankfully, I did have the motivation and energy. I finally like slept in, and even though I did like wake up still at like 4 or 5 a.m. because of being uncomfortable because of the heat, I managed to fall back asleep and get like a decent night's sleep. And so I finally had enough energy to actually want to work on things for a long time. I only did 2 things yesterday, but they took a decent chunk of time. The first thing I did was to read more of that webtoon, Sequoia por Sora. I read that for 4 hours and 19 minutes yesterday, so I definitely just sat down basically and binge read a ton of episodes. I still have some more to read that I'll probably read today because I'm pretty invested in the plot right now. The story is about a writer and author. I think she mostly writes web novels, but she also published a book recently as well. But basically, she is the main female lead, and she meets this MC who is the main male lead. She goes on a show to like talk about her book and meets this MC there, and they start having interactions because of that. And so it's basically following the story of this author and this MC and how they eventually become close and theoretically will fall in love. I haven't gotten to the actual relationship part yet, but I'm really enjoying the storyline so far. It has a lot more of that kind of slow burn feeling than the other webtoon I was reading, and so I'm really enjoying it. It's quite funny actually at certain times. Like I was literally like laughing out loud in my room as I was reading it to myself just alone, and so I think the writing is really well done. The drawing isn't necessarily like the most amazing, or like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like not as detailed, I guess you could say, as some of the other webtoons that I read, but the writing is definitely pretty good so far, and so it makes up for the kind of less detailed drawings at times. But yeah, really enjoying that so far. And then in addition to reading that yesterday, I decided to pull out the big guns in order to accomplish my time goal for this weekend, meaning I decided to start a new drama, Korean drama that I've been wanting to watch called Queen of Tears on Netflix. I had, I think, seen like part of the preview on Netflix before, and I had heard about it before, and so I decided to watch that. I didn't know a ton of the storyline. I just knew it was about a married couple whose marriage was not doing great, so they might divorce. That's all I knew going into watching it, but I didn't realize it would be so like conglomerate focused, if that makes any sense. It is very good so far. I am sucked into the plot for sure. I will say I wasn't expecting to dislike the main characters so much going into the story. Like the first little 30-second like intro to the show, I was like, oh, I can already feel I'm gonna like the show, because it shows like a little kind of collage, I guess, of clips of their relationship leading into the opening scene. But then like right from the get-go, they're both, I don't know, I didn't like really either one, and some of the decisions that they're making in the first few episodes of the show. The girl is kind of a jerk, I guess you could say. And the guy, while I can see why he's worn down to where he is now, still the level of empathy he's shown so far has been questionable. So thankfully we're getting to a point where I think they're going to actually become more likable in theory. So I am definitely, you know, intrigued by the story and want to see where it goes, and I'm looking forward to liking the characters and wanting to actually root for them more than I have been so far. So looking forward to continuing to watch that. I will say, because it is so like conglomerate family focused, there are parts of it where it feels like a really well produced makjang, and makjang is kind of like a morning drama, a soap opera, I guess, in Korea. So there's parts where it's just like family drama and like all this stuff where I'm like, I don't really care that much about this storyline necessarily, but because it is well produced, I am still, you know, interested enough to continue on watching it and see how the storyline develops. I've only watched up till episode 4 so far. I'm planning to watch the rest of it, if not most of it, throughout the rest of the weekend, which will probably take a good chunk of time for sure. And so hopefully that will help me get to where I need to be, because even after yesterday, I did manage to meet my time goal yesterday. I needed to do at least 8 hours, 50 minutes, like I mentioned, per day, and I did almost 9.5 hours yesterday. That was over the goal. However, it was not over enough to like decrease the amount of work I have to really do today or tomorrow. And so going into this weekend, I still have to do 8.5 hours average per day to successfully get to 40 hours. So the whole like, let's just be chill and do what I feel like doing really worked well during the week and not making me totally exhausted and burnt out. However, it is making this weekend feel a bit overwhelming, I will say. So hopefully I can achieve it. If not, it's fine. But yeah, that is the current state of affairs. So with all that said, my plan for today is I want to actually get back to my bingo board that I've been mostly ignoring, honestly, for the majority of the week and actually tackle some of these things. I haven't really been keeping up with crossing things off. I guess the only things I can cross off since the last time I've updated this chart are the TV show episodes, because I definitely watched quite a few of those. But today I'm hoping to cross off quite a few things, starting with going to a cafe to study there and hopefully do some more advanced reading, so probably my novel I'll take there and work on that, and possibly some writing, some other stuff as well. So that's the plan first of all, and then after I do that and tackle some of these kind of new tasks, I'm gonna come back probably and do more of my chill activities, aka webtoons and watching that show. All right, welcome to Sunday, the final day of this challenge. I definitely have quite a bit left to do for today. Yesterday, I did manage to check off a few things off my bingo card. For example, I listened to a podcast. I actually found a new podcast called Tea Time Chinese. I'm trying to expand my Chinese resources beyond just do Chinese all the time. And so I Googled some podcasts for intermediate learners and found this one, Tea Time Chinese, and so far I think it's perfect for my level. It's comprehensible input for me, and so the podcast host has been speaking on a variety of different topics, some, you know, fairly advanced topics, but doing it in kind of a slow and simplified way so that it's easy for even me to understand. And so I listened to a decent chunk of that on the way to and from the cafe yesterday, and I'm pretty impressed with how much I can understand of different topics and just how much I have gleaned from mostly watching dramas throughout the years, but also from my Do Chinese studies as well. So pretty happy with how that went, and I'm planning to implement that more in the future as well. Aside from that, I also did study at a cafe, of course, and I also did a 45-minute reading session of my novel. So finally, I'm actually going to cross off one of those reading sections, even though I have done several hours of reading technically this week. It's funny how it's Sunday already and I haven't made a single bingo on this bingo card yet. Hopefully today I can do a couple of bingos. Originally going into this week, I was hoping that I would do like a total blackout, like get every single thing done on this bingo card, but honestly I didn't do a huge variety of things this week, and so it's just probably not going to happen, especially because one of the things is watch a movie, and I don't really feel like watching a movie. I want to watch more of that drama instead. So I am going to try and hopefully get a couple of bingos in the upper 3 rows, but aside from that, probably not going to worry too much about the bottom since I can't, or I won't watch a movie today. So we'll see what I end up actually achieving on this card. Hopefully at least one bingo. But yeah, as far as time goes, yesterday I did manage to do 8 hours and 19 minutes, which is a lot of time, but it's not as much as I was hoping, because that means today I still have 8 hours and 44 minutes to do. So I will definitely have to do a lot of languagey stuff yet again today to actually hit 40 hours. As far as my kind of theme for the week of just staying chill and not worrying about things and just doing things I want to do, I still think I've been following that pretty well, even though definitely as the weekend has hit, I have felt a bit more, I guess, kind of self-pressure, self-motivation, I guess you can call it, to hit the 40 hours and do my best to actually study a lot to hit that. But I have still been mostly doing just stuff that I feel like doing and pretty chill stuff as well. So I'm still not really overwhelmed or stressed out or burnt out, even though I have been pushing myself pretty hard as far as time goes the past few days. But yeah, like I said, almost 9 hours left to accomplish today if I want to actually achieve my goal of 40 hours in 1 week. I could very easily accomplish that just by watching, you know, the end of that drama, or as much as I can of that drama, Queen of Tears. In my mind, that's not really a challenge. Like, that's just a fun weekend for me. So I do want to push myself a little bit to do some other tasks as well. Like I said, I want to accomplish hopefully at least 1 or 2 bingos on the bingo board. So I am going to try and do a few active, you know, a little bit more challenging tasks before I just relax and watch the drama. So that's basically my goal for the day. Do a decent chunk of some active stuff, knock out some bingos, and then sit back, relax, and end the weekend by kind of binge watching a few more episodes of Queen of Tears, which, by the way, I've gotten to halfway through. I've watched through episode 8, and as suspected, I am rooting for the characters now, even though I didn't like them at the very beginning, and I am dying to know what happens next. I really had to push myself to be like, all right, only to episode 8. Let's not stay up all night. Let's, you know, go to bed at a reasonable hour yesterday, and so I'm really curious to see what happens next. The one thing I'm worried about is that it's pretty clear from the beginning of this drama that it could be either a happy ending or a sad ending, and I don't do well with sad endings, so I'm really hoping it's a happy ending. It's all still up in the air, but we shall see. I don't think I could finish this today if I wanted to, because I still have 8 episodes left, and they're each 80 to 90-ish minutes long, and so that would definitely take my entire day, if not more than the amount of hours still left in the day. So probably not going to actually finish it today, but I am very, very curious to see what happens next and how it ends. I'm hoping for a happy ending, but we shall see. But yeah, that's the plan for today. Hopefully I will be able to get to 40 hours today. I should be able to with the drama as my kind of backup time booster for the day. We shall see, and I will check back in with you guys probably after this week challenge is over. Popping in for the last update of this challenge. Had a really good day on Sunday as far as getting things done. I finally did some more advanced reading by reading a decent chunk of the novel that I'm currently going through. I was originally only planning on just finishing up the chapter that I was in the middle of reading, but I actually was enjoying myself, and so I kept reading beyond that and actually read an entire whole other chapter after that, and so I was pretty impressed with myself. I ended up reading for 2 hours and 10 minutes just of that novel, so I was very happy with how that went. But beyond that, I also read some webtoon stuff. I did a bit of writing, as you saw. I listened to some more of that Chinese podcast, so overall a pretty good, kind of more varied day than a lot of the previous days had been. And because I ended up watching a pretty large, sizable chunk of that drama into the night, I ended up actually getting 12 hours, just over 12 hours of language studying and exposure that day, and so that definitely put me over the 40-hour mark. I actually got 43 hours and 18 minutes total. I was not expecting to get so far over 40, especially going into the day needing almost 9 hours of studying, but once I got hooked into the drama, I kept clicking next episode a little bit beyond where I was originally planning on watching, and so I stayed up a bit too late, but I did end up very successful as far as the actual numbers of the challenge go. So that is that. Out of the over 43 hours of language studying and exposure that I ended up doing, just over 20 of those hours was actually active language engagement, so I'm really, really happy about that. I was not expecting that to be so high going into the week because my focus was kind of being chill and just doing kind of fun stuff, so I actually expected to do a bit more passive stuff and less active stuff than I did, but because I was enjoying reading a lot of webtoons, that helped push that active number to be almost even with the passive exposure. So again, super, super happy about that. that. Looking at a chart of how the week went, you can see that clearly the last 3 days were quite a bit more language heavy than the weekdays had been, because obviously I just had more free time on those days to work on stuff. The active time breakdown looks pretty similar as well, just a bit of that time removed, but again, I was consistently doing active stuff every single day of the challenge. And a big reason for that was because I was reading so many webtoons again throughout the week, so pretty happy about that. And as you could tell from those graphs, Korean was clearly the primary language where I was spending my time in throughout the course of the week for sure. And that's true for both the overall time as well as just the active time as well. And so yeah, I'm really happy with how that challenge turned out. Looking at my kind of bingo card that I was trying to at least get a few bingos on, I definitely did hit a few bingos. By reading that huge chunk of time in my novel, I went ahead and knocked out all of the reading kind of boxes on the bingo card. So I got a bingo from that. Part of the reading was outside as well, so I got another bingo there vertically. And because I spent about half an hour writing as well, I could go ahead and knock off those 2 little writing boxes as well. And so that gives me another, 2 bingos there. So I ended up with 4 bingos total. So again, pretty happy with that. It's not the blackout that I was originally going for at the beginning of the challenge, but considering just how chill my work days were and how little variance I had in the activities that I was working on throughout most of the days, I am still pretty happy with how this turned out. I actually was meaning to do a bit of speaking on Sunday as well, but I just forgot, honestly. And that would have given me a couple of other bingos as well, but whatever, it's fine. I'm pretty happy again with what I did, managed to get done that day. But yeah, overall I had a lot of fun during this challenge. I think it's definitely the kind of most chill, not stressful 40-hour 7-day language challenge that I've had so far. Again, going into the weekend and seeing the massive amount of hours I still had to tackle was a bit intimidating, but because I was, again, being very kind to myself and I kind of acknowledged going into it that I can just watch a drama and kind of take the easy way out to get a big chunk of those hours done, that kind of helped having that mindset going into it. Whereas typically I'm really kind of anxious about like, oh, I have to show a big variety of things to the camera and make it look interesting for the viewer, but this time I was just like, no, I'm gonna do what I feel like doing and not stress about it. And that I think was pretty successful and helped me not to feel disappointed or burnt out or any of those things. So it was a very positive mental health kind of week for me, for sure. I also really had a lot of fun engaging with you guys over on the community tab with the kind of daily or almost daily posts over there. It was fun to see your guys' updates either in the comments and also on the polls as well. So thanks to all of you who did participate over there. It was really fun to kind of do a challenge together with you guys and not just all alone filming by myself like I typically do. So that was definitely fun for sure. But yeah, that is it for this challenge and this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys in the next video, and until then, annyeong.